Actually, what you mentioned about the sort of the way in which characters sort of, or being confronted with things you thought you wanted, turns out you didn't, or you need some other way to get there. That's actually a good segue to talk about maybe a couple of the things specific to Rogue One. When you first sort of started breaking the story and conceiving it and putting together all the pieces with it, was the idea always to have this be a suicide mission to everyone to die from the very beginning? Because I have a hard time picturing a room full of studio executives going, great, yes, everyone dies, let's make a line of toys, we're good to go.
We knew there was going to be a lot of death because none of these people, without digitally recreating everybody or having nobody from the original Star Wars film, it felt like we're going to have to invent new people. They can't officially live because if they escape and go to another planet and they're not part of A New Hope, it just seems weird.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like they give up. They can't be heroic, you know? And there are ways of doing that. And we did in the very first draft, Gary wrote a version because we felt we were killing everybody. We were like, well, they're not gonna let us do this.
Yeah.
So we'll keep Jyn and Cassian alive so that everyone else can die, right?
Okay.
And so we ended up with a scenario that was very similar up until the very, very end. And at the very end, they ended up living. And we liked it, right? It worked within itself.
Yeah.
And then Kathy Kennedy read it and she said, why didn't they all just die? You know, because I think she was expecting that.
Yeah.
And then she got to it and it didn't happen. And I think she was ready for it and kind of wanted it. And we were like, well, we'd love to, but I thought we wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And she said, you can do anything you want.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, we'll see how that plays out. And so we wrote it so everyone died, and then we went for a meeting at Disney. Alan Horn read it, and he had his notes, and Bob Iger had read it, and they went through this is all their feedback. And as they were going through the feedback, we're going, yeah, cool, that's good, yeah, And then we get into the end, and I was like, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. And they just went, that's it, great. And we went, cool, thank you very much, that's great, well, we'll go do this, right? And we walk out the room, and we're like, we can kill them all.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And so we did. And the whole time I was waiting for someone to say, no, actually, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't. And
yeah, and maybe you can have a couple Ewoks in there for.
Yeah, or the Ewoks can die. Yeah. It can be like that poignant moment where one of them gets prodded in Return of the Jedi,
exactly.
Doesn't move. It is like we were very lucky in that sense, but I feel like the counter argument would be you want to. I mean, surely it's not such a bad thing to say to kids that war is not great.
Yeah.
Don't wish for this adventure and amazing thing called war. It actually can lead to some bad stuff. Like wish for peace.
Yeah.
Like that's what you should be trying to achieve and goal, not become like a soldier and go into battle. Like you should be wanting to stop that and go back home. And at the beginning of the whole process, one of our little guiding lights whenever we got stuck was do the opposite of Star Wars. So the simplistic version was Star Wars is the story of a boy who lives in a peaceful home and he dreams of going to a war. So let's tell the story of a girl who grows up in a war and dreams of going to a peaceful home. And so like that was like a basis for like the sort of the trajectory of the film. It evolved a lot from there, but it felt like the right thing to do this day and age.
I wanted to ask about the excised footage from the trailer and stuff, right? Because I know that there was that supercut that went around YouTube of somebody who put together all of the excised footage from the trailer. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you about it because it has some really great shots and some really interesting stuff that you did in it, you know, these shots that you got in it. And I was curious because I assume to some extent this has to do with, you know, there were reshoots and stuff, and I think most people don't understand that reshoots are a very normal part of blockbuster filmmaking at this point. But I'm wondering, was some of the reason some of these things got excised was because you were sort of in the process of realizing you wanted a slightly different creative vision for this film as you were making it? No,
it was all like, if you could do anything you wanted, what you would do is you would probably write a screenplay, get it spot on. You'd then go film that screenplay, everyone would love it, and then you'd go finish that movie, people would love that, and then you would go market that film, and that would be how you make a movie. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it doesn't work like that. Everything bleeds into each other, and you're writing the entire time. Like, we were editing whilst we were writing at the beginning of making the film. We were writing when we were editing at the end of the film, and we did several little shoots to try and just keep, make anything better that we could. We were given the resources by Disney to do this. Like, they were very supportive. In terms of stuff that's in a trailer that's not in the film, a lot of the reason that happens is because they're putting those trailers together. Like, we were getting sent stuff for the trailers, like, I think about March, and we're only 3 months into editing and we have a year. And so we don't know, like, people are showing us stuff, but we're like, look, we have hours and hours of footage, and we don't know if that shot's definitely in, if that shot's definitely in, if it's this. But they're cool shots, and I secretly feel like, oh good, some cool shots I've got in there, great. So even if they ended up out of the movie for some reason, at least they live in the trailer. But we don't know what the film fully is until later down the line. And so a lot of those differences are through that process of just refinement. Without getting into specific ones, its majority is compression of the film. And when you compress the film, threads don't quite work. You have to redo those threads so it doesn't feel like you compressed the movie, like you missed a big piece out.
Yeah.
There's a sequence, probably the easiest way to explain one of the biggest changes was, there's a shot in the trailer that I love, right? Do not get me wrong, I love this moment where the camera's following Jin and Cassian, and they're running, and the AT-ATs are firing at them, and it ends. I think it was the end of the first trailer.
Yeah.
And in the third act, as we put it together, it's too long, so we have to compress it. And one of the obvious things to do is we had the transmission tower separate away from the base. And so once they steal the plans, they would run along the beach, they would go to the transmissions tower, and they would transmit the plans. And so a very simple way to reduce the third act was to put the transmission tower on the base, so they didn't have to run. And so a lot of little things got cut out because of that compression, things like that. And so, there's probably a story behind every single one, but they're not that interesting a story. But there's so many things, like little shots and things that didn't make the trailers or the film, and you just go, oh, I wish that ended up in the movie. But that's just the process of making a film.
Yeah.